Thank you. Good evening to all. I just want to welcome everyone here. There's a big group of people tonight, so we do have quite a full agenda in front of us, and most everyone probably does have the agenda. So a couple quick items to get down through. On the bottom side, executive session. There will be no executive sessions tonight on either part, so there will be no executive session. And item number 8 will be moved up to item number 3. Everyone catch that? So with no further ado, item number 1 is consider approving the minutes held from a meeting on August 9th.
I make the motion to approve the minutes and sign the warrant.
Motion made, second by Buzz, all in favor? Thank you. Item number 2, we'll vote on a mutual aid agreement between Oakland PD and its neighboring PDs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every so often, the police departments in the area, the Oakland Police Department, Waterville Police Department, Winslow, and Fairfield have to renew their contract for mutual aid. And usually it's when a new chief comes in where they renew that. All the councils have to approve this, and we're just following the suit with everybody else. We've had a mutual aid contract for the last 35, 40 years, and it's certainly beneficial to all of the police departments involved. And we'd like to renew that. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Any questions? Seeing none.
I make a motion we renew the police mutual aid contract.
Motion's made, do we get a second? Second, all in favor? Good. Moving on to item number 3, consider approving junkyard renewals.
I have Mr. Bob Ellis, our code enforcement officer, here to talk to you about that. Bob?
Yes, sir. You all have a copy of the report I prepared, I believe, and I'll go down the list. Jerome Boulette is business as usual. It's very brief this year. Nobody's doing that much business. He's in compliance. Kennebec Scrap Iron, they're moving along, not too busy, same thing, in compliance. AIM, not much stock on hand. Whatever they get in, they ship to Canada, and they rebuild and ship it elsewhere. They're still in compliance. Donald Davis, he's down to maybe 60 jumpers or less. He's in compliance. Jeff Higgins, the same stuff. He doesn't have hardly anything left in there. He's a smart guy, and he has a whole bunch of tires in the back. I suggested to him either he gets them over to Clinton, to the farmers, they'll take them for nothing, or he can keep them there till he's ready to get rid of them. But for $50 to renew for each year, he's better off just leaving them until he decides what he wants to do with them. So he's in agreement with that. Raymond Brickett, the front yard is better than it has been. He's filling it, placing fill, soon getting ready to erect his concert hut, according to what he told me days ago. The property line dispute with a new neighbor. Town of Oakland is out of that, as it's a civil matter. Other than that, he's in compliance. Recommend that all 6 of the above yards receive approval and be relicensed for the year starting October 1, 2017. Any questions? I'm here to answer.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm the property owner adjoining Mr. Burkett. I don't believe he's in compliance. He has junk within 100 yards of my property line, which is about 2,000 feet of property. In the ordinance, it states that very clearly.
But like no sense when, it never did. Because there's always right to the line.
We got to let him speak, okay? Thank you, Tom.
You'd like to see it?
We have that anyway, so.
Yeah, we can.
Bob, do you see this?
I have one copy with me.
Okay.
Yep.
And he is also using our property to get to his junkyard.
No, no.
Anyone have you interrupt, that's all.
Nope, that's all pretty much I
That's
have
all
to
I
say.
have to say.
And you stated that he's using your property?
Yes, we have it all surveyed out, and he's using our property to drive to his property.
It's the old county road that runs down through there. That's comes right up by Rice's Ribs. Running all the way through to Oak Street. That's distributed in 2 different parts. And K&K surveyed that, when Roger had the Rosenau block. And then they surveyed again when these people bought it, and the pins ain't in the same place. I widened my side out to make room for it, so I could get through there. And now he's calling that the old road, so he's moved everything over. I got a surveyor working on it too.
You do have a surveyor working on it.
Jamie Moore.
Bob, your opinion?
Yes.
I had stuff out to the road, and I moved all that stuff. And I thought it'd make him happy, but apparently it hasn't. And I don't know where this damn thing's coming from, 100 yards. We wouldn't have any land left, but 100 yards from each property
100
line. I fired up a little bit, as you can tell.
Yep. Thank you for your patience, so, 1 second, yeah. Bob?
Good. Patience is not always a virtue with Tuffy, but he's been more patient tonight than the last time I saw him, which is good. Thank you, Tuffy. However, we've got 6 junkyards in town. We've got Jerome Boulette. His property is narrow. He cannot meet the 100-foot setback. We've got Kennebec Scrap Iron, cannot meet the 100-foot setback from property line. AIM Recycling, they can meet it and do in some parts of it, but they've got buildings stored with junk that are within the setback line of 100 and then some. Donald Davis, he's almost out of business with what he's doing. He's down to like 60, as I said, or less vehicles. So he doesn't have enough property. And Jeff Higgins, same story. Raymond Brickett, he's got a large lot, but still he's too close to the property line, even with the 100 feet. So what it boils down to is if the council determines that it's wiser to close 4 of the 6 junkyards because of that 100-foot setback requirement, I don't believe it. I think that that's part of the state situation with the setback line. And I've had this job, these stipulations have been in place since the early 80s. I was barely a child then, I was only 51. And that's what's happened, and it's been going on since then. I inherited all of the junkyards that we have, and I can't see how we can change one to satisfy the new landowner next door, which I empathize with him and his wife, Amy. And there's just no way around it that I see unless the council wants to change something and make it different. And as I say, you'd be eliminating 4 or 5 of the 6 junkyards we have in town if you were to do that. So that's the background that I prepared for you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
I got a question. Where this 100 feet, he says 100 yards, but now you're saying 100 feet from the property line.
It's 100 feet.
No, it never was, it's right to the line. It's always been to the line.
You're on there.
The only thing that was required was from the road, main road, from the Todd Road, town road.
It says here in the ordinance that it's from the property line.
Well, when they sneak this in?
The what?
How'd they sneak this in without us knowing? Because it never was that way.
I'll be darned if I know.
Well, I think somebody needs to do some research, because it never was that way. I guarantee you that. It's all, you can ask Reggie Becker, he was right there. We argued with Paul Lucio when he was code enforcement officer before your time. And
You don't have to
through the
argue,
line.
you don't have to argue with me, because I'm not arguing.
No, but
We're
I'm
not
just
going
saying.
to argue, gentlemen, we're gonna discuss this, and we're gonna solve the problem.
Well, that's what we're doing, discussing.
Right, but we're not gonna start yelling and screaming, because
Well, I'm
it's
not
a waste of
yelling,
time.
you haven't heard me yelling.
So,
I don't know when,
I don't know.
Ever since these guys moved there, it's been nothing but move this, move that. I moved everything on my side of the road, and that's apparently not good enough.
No, not when you're still using our property.
Well, this may not be your property.
Okay, but until then, our deed has it as our property, and
And
it's surveyed.
one of the open officers
The
said
reason we got
that,
it surveyed was for the town
Right.
to prove it.
Todd Burbank said that you told me I could use it, anyways.
Right here.
You can call, you can get him in here, I'll ask him.
Go ahead, but this-
Gentlemen, ladies, folks,
I'm not arguing. I don't want to.
It's not like it's on Main Street, it's down the freaking woods. half mile.
some kind of date here that says the following additional proposed standards shall apply to any automobile graveyard, automobile recycling business and junkyards following. And it says any graveyard, recycling business, junkyard created after February 27th, 1991.
That's right. Well, where's it along before that?
So, and it says after, and it's following these proposals. The purpose of these standards shall be any graveyard after 1991. So I guess what happens, town manager.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir. Someone said,
Vernon,
yes.
Tuffy mentioned the fact that it's 100 feet from the tarred highway, whatever. Mine is 7.9.
Maybe 150, I don't know.
No, 7.9 on page 6 in the ordinance. No vehicles, junk, or parts of other items shall be stored closer than 100 feet of any property line. That means any property line, not just the street. And having said that, 100 feet, and like all 4 out of the 6, and maybe 5 out of the 6, couldn't meet it, and the 6th one might have to take a building down to comply. So it's been there for, it's a state thing, it's been there forever, and that's the way it is.
Mike just said is that the ones after 91, which I think you're probably right. Established after 91.
He's looking at the current ordinance.
I'm looking at the old one.
I think it would be a good.
So I'd like to make a motion, so we can table, so we have our ducks in a row. Because from what I read on that, that was drawn up in 1991, or anybody after 1991 put in the junkyard. So I would like to make a proposal, and not to put anybody off, and not to drag you folks out, because everyone's time is very important, but I would like to make a proposal, or a request, that we table this. And I'd like to make a motion that we table this, so we can look into it legally from what our ordinances say, and look into it. Yes.
Just one thing to add to this. One, using the property, company using the property, that's actually a civil situation between landowners. The ordinance, we do have an ordinance that's on the books that is enforceable.
Yep.
And we certainly have the ability and should probably be enforcing this through all of our scrapyards. So I certainly would recommend enforcing any ordinances that we have on the books, because if we don't, what's the sense of having them on the books? So, I do agree that we should table this so that we can discuss it a little more in depth and get our situation together.
So motion has been made.
Second.
Second, all in favor? We'll table it until the next meeting. 2 weeks enough to look into this?
What's the date on that?
It will be the 27th, please. And we'll try to put you guys toward the front so we can, not drag it out, and I apologize for that, but we want to make sure it's done tonight, if that's all right.
Thank you.
No, I thank you.
So you didn't tell
One
local
second.
police officer that I could use that road?
No.
No, why would I call
Oh,
him?
he's a liar, then.
Well, we had it posted, and you ran over the sign.
From where you can see him.
So, we're not ready? Enough? Dawn, you got a question?
It's been surveyed once by you.
It's, yes.
Yes.
You are now having it surveyed?
I'm having it surveyed again. And it was surveyed when Everett Rosenbaum bought it, and those pins are not in the same place, and K&K did it again this time.
When is the second survey supposed to be
He's
accomplished?
working on it now.
You have a date?
I don't know, I gotta go talk to him. I've been so busy with hauling sand over to Camp Somerset for my shows that I haven't had a chance to talk to him.
So is that something you can do in the next 2 weeks?
Yes. If he's not gonna do it, he doesn't, then I'll get somebody else.
So it has been tabled for now. Thank you, folks. I'm sorry. Thank you, and I'm sorry. So we do, yes.
We're all set with me for the night?
All set. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, folks. It was fun having this discourse.
Moving on to item number 3, please. Accept an air pack bid for the fire department.
I've got a sheet, contract revision, the bids and recommendations.
Night.
Anybody got to join? Can I?
Chief, sorry.
You should have the letters that indicate the three bids that we received. Like me to wait, or?
Yeah, just a second. Thank you, go ahead, please, again. Sorry, Chief.
No problem. As you know, we received the grant, we put a proposal together to go out to bid, competitive bid process. We were able to get some very good numbers as far as project. So we're recommending that we go with fire tech and safety for $116,650 for Scott Air Packs. The remaining funds that we have available, the Assistance to Firefighter Grant will allow us to spend with some restrictions. We can spend up to $10,000. Anything beyond that, we have to get approval from them. So we ask that we also could continue to enhance the scope of this project with the remaining funds, also with your approval. And like I said, should have that in your packet.
Here, are
So-
you proposing this $5,833 from the fund equity?
That comes out of fund equity, that was the match that the town had come up with. So I'll need a motion to vote on accepting the lowest bid, that's how you choose to.
I'd make a motion, we accept the $116,650 bid and take the $58.33 out of fund equity.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor? Thank you, sir.
I got a question for somebody.
Yes.
So what's happening in the junkyard, is it on hold now?
It's on hold for 2 weeks.
Okay, that's what we were just talking about, is it, I don't know, they got a
Well,
call, they didn't.
No, we did not get approved because we're gonna hold it until we make sure we're clear on all of that.
Okay.
Okay? I know it's not what you want to hear tonight, but that's what we want to make sure we're settling. All right?
So I know it used to be for the line, so, on the old junkyards. I do believe that it probably did change on the, if there was any established accurate dates.
We're looking. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, please. Facilities Committee presentation. Mike Willie.
Yes, it is. Okay, we haven't had a chance to make a presentation on our current project to the town council since we started, so we thought it's time to do that. And I just gotta let this is 10 minutes, that'll give you an overview of what we have done to date, what we're planning to do, and the next steps that we're looking at, I think. You should all have a copy of this presentation anyway, so.
Nice of you to bring along your supervisor tonight, Mr. Willie. Thank you. You probably don't see him enough, that's why I have come to the meetings.
Dave, could you hit the lights here for us?
Thank you, Dave, you're awesome.
Where's that left? Oh,
Yeah.
There we go. All righty, we'll get there eventually. All right, I'll just get the right app here.
Are you gonna teach a course in this?
Okay. So this is what we call phase 2. Of course, phase 1 is the building that we're sitting in now. And but I wanted to emphasize a couple of points. First of all, we're doing this as a general facility evaluation throughout the town, not just assuming moving on from one facility to the other. So when we ended the police department project, which is this nice building that we're sitting in now, we went back and we looked at the Well, first of all, I should say that we modified the committee slightly to be able to represent the work that we were going to do with the fire department. But most of the committee members, or a lot of the committee members, are the committee members that worked on the police department project and agreed to work on the other project. That committee worked very, very well, and we wanted to kind of maintain the integrity and continuity of that. The ones that we've added, Dave Broder from the Oakland Fire Department is acting as a representative from the fire department group that kind of provides information to us in addition to the chief. The chief, obviously, Mark Stevens, who is a fire protection officer expert, and of course Gary. And then we added another one of your town, one of the council members, Harold Buzzell, because he has specific experience in fire sciences and also the construction side of the business, and was interested in participating in the project. So we have a really good group. It's been working well together, just like it did on the fire department. In general, the activity that we put, or the mission that we put together for the original committee was, and we continue to have, to identify the critical town facility needs and recommend solutions that solve those needs for the community while minimizing the impact on taxpayers. We know that that any of these facility additions or modifications or whatever can have a significant impact on the taxpayer, and we've tried to minimize that. I think we proved that with what we did with the police department, and we're working on that with the other facilities as well. Project scope, again, this is for the committee in general. We wanted to identify the most critical facility needs in the town of Oakland, prioritize them. The police department was #1 priority. The fire department ends up being #2 priority. Thoroughly evaluate all the potential options to solve the problem. So use that same process that we did with the police department and kind of sit back and take a look, not assume anything, but sit back and take a look at what the potential solutions were for the problem that meet our goals. Functionally, we have to have a facility that works, and cost-wise, we have to have a facility that works. And then recommend a solution that solves the problem, while again, taking into account the impact to the taxpayers. So what I was going to get to was the priority. Should have put this up first, I guess, the way I started the presentation. But police department was at the top of the list when we started this. We've completed that project, and I think you know that we did that under budget and on schedule. We did spend a lot of time looking at the next 2 or 3 facilities at the front end of this process. When we went into phase 2, the fire department, kind of like the police department, kind of rose to the top fairly quickly for a lot of different reasons. But to get an overall perspective, we put together this chart. Actually, I think the chief put together this to help us get a perspective on what that facility was built for and where we are now. This is the change in the demographics. So population when that facility was built has, and the difference between then and now, has quadrupled. The number of structures, which is critical in terms of meeting the needs from the fire department point of view, has tripled. The fire calls have almost over tripled. And of course, not of course, but it's important to note that at the beginning when this fire department was built, we weren't doing rescue calls. We just had the fire equipment in there. And now we're doing over 600 calls a year. So that rescue equipment is part of the needs of the facility, which we're making do with over there, but it wasn't there when we originally built that facility. And interestingly enough, the staff has actually gone down from the original volunteer when it was only fire department to where it is today. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of it is based on the amount of time and effort that the volunteers have to put in to be qualified and certified in today's environment. So this, I think, kind of gives you a good overall perspective of what the dramatic change in the needs have been and why we ended up where we were in terms of looking at the fire department next. So the activities that we've completed so far, we reviewed the fire department mission and what the facility, equipment, and personnel needs are required to meet that mission. In other words, we wanted to start by saying, what is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to maintain fire protection and provide first responder rescue facilities for the town. and then match that with the equipment that we have. And the first discussion I ever had was with the chief, and the chief does an excellent job of getting into the detail of identifying why we have the equipment and what it's being used for and why we need it. So there's a link, a direct link between the needs, the mission of the fire department and the equipment that we have, because obviously the equipment drives the facilities that we need. So we wanted to make sure that we were looking at that from the top down, or from the bottom up, if you want to look at it that way. We then surveyed the community and confirmed support for the mission and the project. In other words, we went out to in several surveys that we did, we went out to the community and said, here's what the fire department's mission is, here's what they're planning to do, or here's what what they're trying to do with that mission in terms of meeting the needs. Do you agree with that? And all of the survey responses that we get supported the mission that they have. I mean, obviously this thing kind of wraps, it's not totally independent anyway, because the fire department responds to the town and knows some of this on the front end, but we wanted to confirm it in what we were doing. We then used some of the experience that we got when the committee worked on the fire department, and we went out and visited new facilities in the area, including Norridgewock, Augusta North, and New Gloucester. All have built new facilities in the recent past. And just like in the fire, in the example with the police department, we learned a lot from those visits of what they did right, what they did wrong, why they did what they did, and kind of how they got through this process. So we're using that now in terms of our decision making. And we concluded that based on the needs, not only the ones that I show you then and now, but a lot of the other work that we did to look at the structure of the facility and what was needed in terms of the equipment, to that it was not practical to renovate the current facility. And then we identified possible sites and building plans to meet the future needs and reviewed the finance alternatives for minimizing taxpayer impact. Those last two are kind of where we are right now. We've done some of that. We haven't completed all of that. But the other thing I would say is that we're following the same planning model that we used on the police department. This planning model was actually put together by the Association of Police Chiefs, the national group. And it was very good in terms of helping us, give us a roadmap of what we should be doing to make sure that we not only do all of the due diligence on the top end, but make sure we keep the community and the other stakeholders in the town involved in understanding what we were trying to do and get their input. The activities that we have planned from here out are to identify the scope and cost of preparing the site for the new facility. I'll talk about that a little bit more. We've looked at several sites, but we've kind of honed in on one. And complete the initial cost analysis designed for the building facility. In order to be able to make a recommendation to you, we've got to come up with a fairly accurate cost estimate, which includes the site work and the facility work, like we did with the police department, so that you can have some confidence that if we go and ask for approval of that, that that we've done our homework there. We're not complete with that. That's work that we have yet to do. Review the site and facility design for functionality and cost. That's really at the end when we get the site, not at the end, but it's the next step once we get the site cost information and the building cost information. We're going to put that together and make sure that it meets the functionality that we want to have for the facility, and it is a facility that will last for the town, so we don't have to come back and visit this in 5 or 10 years. And then make a recommendation to the town council based on this analysis. We think that'll be sometime in the early spring. It might be earlier or later, depending on how long it takes us to get there, but we'll give you a time frame for what we're looking at. So the next steps are to discuss the purchase of a lot north of the current site from that is owned by Mesolansky Hydro at this point. And so what we picked as our primary site to look at is an expansion of the existing